Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thank you so much for being here, for being subscribed. If you are, if you are not, go ahead and hit that button. And if you're listening to this on YouTube while you're at it, go ahead and hit that like button. It's like walking into the room and hitting that light switch. We just want to go ahead and brighten up the place. So let's get into this conversation/reality chat. So I recently listened to this episode of Way Up with Angela Yee's podcast where she interviewed Shereewhitfield. And she also had special guest on there, Jasmine from the blog, The Jasmine Brand. I guess she and Angela Yee are best friends. But anyway, it has nothing to do with that. I previously did a conversation/reality chat where I talked about Sheree in this podcast because she shared some things that I just felt were just ridiculous. She was lying. Lying about her so-called relationship with Hotel and saying something different on the show, on this podcast, and saying different things on the show. So she also said some things about Kandi, and I said, I'm going to wait to talk about that. Well, it's made the blogs, and I wanted to discuss it because she made some comments about Kandi, and she wanted to blame Kandi for some things that Kandi said that she feels negatively affected her business. And I just felt like, oh my God, what a joke. What a cop-out. One of my pet peeves is people who blame other people, period. And especially blaming people for things that really they shouldn't be blaming them for. Like, take personal accountability and take personal responsibility. I just feel that when people just outright blame someone else for something, that's somebody that really has a problem because they really have a problem with taking personal accountability. And in some ways, people like that can be absolutely dangerous because they will never admit to being wrong. And it's hard for them to do that. You have to have an air of responsibility and even humility to be a freaking adult and have some emotional intelligence to know that you're not always right. Not everything is always somebody else's fault. Indeed, we live in a life where stuff can, we can blame situations or even people for things. But I'm just saying, I hate situations like this when someone just wants to point the finger and blame someone else for why this didn't happen the way that they wanted it to happen or things like that. Take some accountability, take some responsibility. Sheree has been back and forth on the Real Housewives of Atlanta for years. She had been talking about She by Sheree since the first season, and we're now on season 15. She's been back and forth on the show. She has not been a regular on the show, and I feel that in some ways she's mad about the fact that Kandi has been since season 2. So Kandi has been on the show longer than she has been. I don't care how much is her calling herself an OG. Kandi's an OG as well, whether she wants to admit it or not. Kandi's more of an OG than she was because I don't care if she started first. She has been back and forth so many times. Like, it's like a boomerang. Like, they can't get rid of her. They toss her away. She eventually comes back. They toss her away. She eventually comes back. But she comes back with the same stuff, which is excuses, lies, blaming, pointing the finger, stirring the pot, sharing other people's business. Just like nothing really real going on. And then the real that you showcase to the general viewing public, it looked absolutely ridiculous. You dating a man in prison? You know what I mean? Like, while you're building the chateau and he's talking about how when he gets out, he's going to help you finish it. And a lot of people feel like the money that she did get, he helped her to curate. So I'm just saying that's what some people think about it, because it's like, where is all of the money coming from? Where? And also, I feel, and Marlo, they harbor some resentment and jealousy in a way to Kandi, because even though some people say, oh, Kandi's boring and she doesn't have a storyline or it's always the same thing, she's doing business and drama with her mom and her husband, the back and forth with those two and whatever. But if that's her real life, I really don't think she's lying about anything like that. I don't know, like, if people just want her to bring them into her bedroom, well, if that's what they want, then maybe if that's what she chooses to share, don't do that on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Go to OnlyFans for that. You have a YouTube channel. If you want to go deeper and do that stuff, then do that there. I'm not interested in seeing that. But I think some people forget that these reality shows, for the most part, at least the way it used to be before they started giving reality shows to celebrities and their family members, we didn't know these people. So we were watching just out of a general interest, and then we just continued to follow along. When Real Housewives of Atlanta started, the very first season, we didn't know any of these people for the most part, unless you just happen to know that person or know of that person because of your life and people you knew or whatever. None of us really knew Nene, Lisa Wu Hartwell at the time. She's no longer Hartwell. Kim Zolciak, Sheree even. Like, none of us knew these people. But they kept bringing some of them back on. They added Kandi to the second season. We knew of Kandi, but we didn't know of her personally. I don't feel that Kandi's lied about her life. If her life is deemed as boring to some people, I guess that's really what it is. But Kandi has always, for what we can see, been about her money. And this was an opportunity for her to capitalize and to grow and build her net worth and her portfolio and her businesses and to secure that generational wealth for her family. So that's what she's been doing. And I guess that's boring to some people, but all of the played up drama and stuff like that, I think people just kind of got used to the fact that there were some times where we may have seen some dramatic things happen to these people on these shows because it really happened in their personal life. But that's not an everyday situation. If most of us were to have a reality show, for most of us, it probably would be really boring, to be honest with you. So that's just kind of what it is at this point. But Sheree had been talking about She by Sheree since the first season, and it had become a running joke. Even so much so that you knew that if Andy Cohen saw her on either Watch What Happens Live or on a reunion, after saying hello, we already knew what the next thing was going to be. And it was going to be asking her, are you wearing She by Sheree? It became a running joke. But Sheree, she wants to point the finger at Kandi and blame Kandi for things that she said on her YouTube channel affecting her business negatively. And it's like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. So anyway, I'm going to play this clip and then I'm going to continue with my commentary.
You're not getting along with Kandi this season either, right?
Kandi and I had a little bump in the road.
Because she spoofed you, which was funny.
It was funny.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, when you're talking about, she spoofed me, but she also kept going on her show talking about my business.
Okay. Right.
So we're all black women and we're trying to make it and we're trying to support our families.
Right.
So I've supported Kandi's businesses.
Okay.
When I was on the show and off the show,
okay.
I would take, people to her restaurants. I go, play, to her show, her plays. And I pay my own way. And I pay whoever else that was with me.
That's how you support your friends.
That's how you support your friends. Mm-hmm. But when you're continuously coming on your platform and you're talking negatively about my brand, it took a while. It took a while to come out. But you're talking negatively about my brand. And I never said anything about your brand. That can hurt my brand.
Okay.
So since you started it, let me finish it.
Yeah, that's real life business.
Yeah, that's real life
to have
business.
somebody kind of bashing what you have going on.
Yeah, and we're supposed to be women who support. You say you support. You're pro woman. You're pro. Women empowerment, black businesses. But you're trying to tear mine down.
Gotcha.
And it feels like the show also.
All right, so you heard that, and I call BS on it. But honestly, we know that Sheree has been pretty much full of BS for many years, showcasing herself on the show. And so I'm not surprised that she would try to point the finger at Kandi, because let's just be clear right now. Kandi is doing really well. As much as people are saying that the show is suffering, Kandi can't carry the show, she's overpaid, they need to fire her, all this other stuff. I don't know. Those things may be real, but the fact of the matter is, I believe she's one of the highest paid housewives, and you can't tell me that that's not something that pisses her off. I believe that Sheree feels entitled to get more because she is what she calls an OG. She was the first one on the first season, but she hasn't earned that. The network at one point in time felt that Kandi was worth it. Now, are they having second guesses and looking at cutbacks? Possibly, because it is a business, and we know that The country is going through a recession right now. Things are different. And with that, choices have to be made. And at the end of it all, these people are contractors, all of them. So sometimes contracts have to be edited and numbers have to be reconfigured, and they may have to cut some, agreements in terms of, well, we know we were paying you this much per episode or per season, but now we're going to offer you this, and you either accept it or reject it. And that possibly could be the case. But I feel that there's nothing that Kandi could have said that was going to stop people who already didn't see it for Sheree to stop them from making a purchase on her website. Because just let's be clear, when Sheree started talking about She by Sheree in the beginning, it was this high-end clothing line that she said she designed. And even in that season when Dwight helped her with the fashion show, the designs they're nothing like it is now, where it's joggers and just pretty much things that people expose were already done on sites like Shein, Amazon, and, Fabletics came out here and just took the game by storm. Kate Hudson, I believe her name is, Goldie Hawn's daughter. I mean, she came out here and took the athletic wear game by storm. And there are other companies like Lululemon and all those other things. But Sheree, she's just dim-witted at this point, because she started out from the first season being about fitness. Now, I believe she had some enhancements to her body. I don't care what anybody says. I see that people are talking about, did she have something done to her face? And recently she was on Watch What Happens Live, and Andy asked her about it. And of course, she did not admit to doing anything to her face. I don't care if she did or not, to be honest with you, but don't play in our faces and think that we don't recognize it, because I don't care how much you stay in the gym, your ass is not going to get big like that. And I believe that she had some work done on her butt. I do. I believe she had her boobs done. I believe she had her butt done. I just don't believe. I'm not saying she's not fit, and I'm not saying that there's even anything wrong with that, but don't act like you got all of that done in the gym. That's the only thing that I'm saying. And I've heard that she did have some stuff done, but she just is like she does. She doesn't admit to anything. She just won't come out here and say it. And Sheree lives in a lot of pride. And the Bible even says that pride comes before a fall. And that's not just in the terms of people who are devious and deceitful and doing dirty things and won't admit to it, and they're in their pride. And then the fall is going to be them, a disastrous fall from grace or whatever. But I'm just saying, in terms of her, when it comes to pride being before a fall, she just refuses to admit almost anything. And then the fall is just the public ridicule that she gets, because most people really don't take her seriously. I'm not saying she's not a beautiful woman. Obviously, she looks great, especially, I hate to say this, but it's true, for her age, because she is a woman of a certain age, even though now, it just seems like she's just trying her best to even look even more youthful. But I just cannot sit here and allow this woman to try to put the blame doormat at Kandi's front door to say Kandi's words had a negative impact on her business. No, you have never taken your business seriously. And I just believe that because she is, in my personal opinion, lazy, she's not a go-getter. I don't believe that she really has the mindset of a really hardworking woman. She was this woman that was going through a divorce and thinking that she was going to get 7 figures. She just wanted to live the life and be taken care of. And I believe she still wants that. So she's not accustomed to being a hard worker. It takes a hard worker to be someone in that type of position and have a really thriving operation. She probably doesn't have any employees. She probably has a few independent contractors that she pays every now and then. We've all heard the stories about how she hasn't paid people, how she doesn't like to pay people. She even admitted on, I believe it was the last reunion, when she was asked about paying people, because Kenya checked her on it, because Sheree said something along the lines of, well, if I pay someone to get some work done on my home and it doesn't turn out the way that I want it to look like, why should I still have to pay them? And Kenya's like, well, you still have to pay for the work, but you take them to court if you feel like something didn't turn out the way that you hoped for, but you don't just not pay them for doing the work. But see, like a dimwit like Sheree, she would actually think that that is okay. And that's why she even had the balls to say something like that in the general public. Not just to one of her homegirls or one of her friend girls that would just sit and stupidly agree with something like that she said, to say, yeah, girl, I wouldn't pay them either. I mean, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And that's probably why allegedly she had liens on her home, because contractors had done work and she didn't pay them to get to do the work that they paid, that not that she paid, but that they were hired to do for her home or whatever else. You know, so sometimes when I look at the situations that have happened to her on TV where she had a designer or somebody that was supposed to do something by a certain amount of time and things didn't get done or they didn't get to her in time, of course she's not going to be honest with us and tell us all of the details. But I, more likely than not, 99% can probably guarantee you that came down to a situation where these people were supposed to get a certain amount of money by a certain amount of time and they didn't get it. I don't believe these people would, on national television, leave her hanging for something that she had paid them to do and they just took the money and ran and they didn't do it. I just don't believe that. Or, you know, she agreed to send in a deposit and send in another deposit, and then in turn they would be fulfilling their agreement up to a certain point in time, and then she wanted to maybe start adding more things on, and then they increased the fee and she didn't agree with it, so they just decided to part ways. But she wanted us to see it as, well, these people are just horrible. I would never do business with them ever again. I would want to know the full story, because when it comes to her, I don't believe most of what she says. I just don't. So yeah, I'm really interested to know what Kandi's response is going to be to this, because I'm quite sure that Kandi's going to have a response to this. So I'm just going to be waiting to see what that's going to be. But the people in the comment section on Instagram talking about this is just absolutely funny. Someone says, I'm so sick of Sheree and Marlo blaming Kandi for everything. Another one says, I know she dislocated her shoulder with that damn reach. And someone says, don't blame Kandi. That was Nene and Dwight that sealed the deal. A fashion show with no fashions. Oh my God. Someone else says, Sheree, please be serious. You have no real business and nobody is buying anything from She by Sheree. Overpriced, cheap items. People was already clowning on you before Kandi even said anything. And that's what she refuses to address. And that's why I said what I said at the beginning of my commentary. People like this who want to blame other people for the positions that they're in when they're not taking any personal accountability, to me, is ridiculous. And for her to say what she said on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, not on a podcast or on a YouTube channel, like she wanted to bring up on this podcast about playful comments, honestly, that Kandi made about She by Sheree, which is no different than what was already being said, is the fact that she made that comment about Kandi's restaurant saying, well, when you go to Old Lady Gang, we don't know if you're going to get biscuits or bullets. So she's making fun of a situation that's a real life situation where people were injured and I believe possibly lost their lives. That's serious. And that had nothing to do with Kandi. That's not her fault. But on this podcast, you want to say, well, I support women in business and I've taken people to her restaurant and I've paid the bill and everyone else's bill. Girl, you made fun of the restaurant on the show. So I don't really want to hear about how you support her restaurant, but that's the type of stuff that Sheree does. So none of that surprises me. That's why she and Kim are good friends. Kim Zolciak. I just don't see it for either one of those two. But I just wanted to talk about this because it just really annoyed me when I listened to that podcast episode on Friday and heard that. And I said, you know what? She's got a whole lot of freaking nerve. I haven't heard Kandi's response to this yet. So I just wanted to talk about this, and we'll see what Kandi has to say about this in the coming days ahead. But you guys let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. I'm Beth. I'm just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I just wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.